Hi, this is Ha.
Hi, this is Ali.
Welcome to Green Patchouli. This is our second video. Today we'll introduce you into the perfume families. So this is how the perfume are categorized, and the brands, they market their perfumes by the distinct scent that falls into a certain category. So today we'll list out the most common families and also what perfume that represent that family.
Of course, and as our episodes will go on as well, we'll realize that a lot of these families are interchangeable. Most fragrances actually belong to more than one family. So you might have it might start off as a floral but move on to an oriental. These are probably terms that you've heard a lot, especially with a lot of perfume reviews. You're always bombarded with these terms, but you don't exactly know what these mean, like what ingredients are used in an oriental fragrance, or why a gourmand fragrance is supposed to invoke the feeling of, or some sort of emotion of food. Okay, so getting to it, we'll be talking about specific families, and of course these are the most common and most popular ones. Okay, so now we're going to start talking about different families. First, come on, Ha.
Floral, people usually associate perfume with flowers. So of course, floral is the most common. Is it the most common?
Yeah, definitely the most common.
The most common family of perfume. So the perfume is what makes you think of the flowers. You can smell distinct flowers in there, like jasmine, roses. So one of the most famous perfume in the floral category is probably J'adore by Dior,
and of course Romance by Ralph Lauren. And of course, if you've smelled these fragrances before, these are more or less full-bodied florals, top to bottom. They don't actually have anything else. You probably smell jasmine on the top, rose in the middle, magnolia somewhere in the middle as well. You get a whiff of a bouquet of flowers that's been sitting in your living room, and that's what a J'adore is, or Romance is as well. I think the next category, which has become increasingly popular, is the fruity one. Of course, you get a lot of fragrances with fruit in it, and when we say fruit, that's a lot of your citrus family as well. So with citrus, you're looking at mandarin or grapefruit for that matter as well.
Yeah, and citrus is something that's really light, so that's why it's the first thing that you always smell in a perfume. Like most of the perfume, they have like lemon or lime or like bergamot at the top. So yeah, it's always like the top note is citrus.
Yeah, and even if a specific fragrance is not entirely fruity, but they use citrus elements in the top notes to kind of lift the fragrance up. It makes it a little bit lighter, definitely a little bit easier to handle as well in the first notes. So what do we think embodies fruity fragrances?
Definitely the most famous fruity and like it's really likable one as well is Be Delicious by DKNY. Almost anyone I showed that one to like loves it. So.
Yeah, because it even looks like an apple. You just want to bite into it. It's all apple and it's yummy. And at the same time, I think, well, not relatively new, but L'Homme Petit by D&G, it was part of their anthology they did about 2-3 years ago with all the nude supermodels we all love to watch.
Yeah, that's number 3.
The number 3, yes. So that's more or less entirely fruity as well, which that's why that embodies the fruity category. What else do we have?
So, of course, we have the Oriental as well.
Yay.
Yeah.
I love Orientals.
And yeah, most famous Oriental is probably Shalimar by Guerlain. Also, Oriental is something that's incensey, spicy.
Yeah. And at the same time, Shalimar was actually one of the first Orientals ever to hit the market, and it was a huge storm back in the 1920s, if I'm not mistaken. And what basically sets it apart is that you could have anything from an aromatic spice to something which is a little bit more almost with a herby kind of woody quality, but not entirely woody. So what we're looking at is things like musk and patchouli, of course, and also things like cardamom and cloves. So they're not entirely woody, they're aromatic woods, and that's what you get. And even things like a little touch of cedar wood as well, but of course that's definitely going towards more woody things. So again, I think Hypnos by Lancôme is another one which is very oriental. Of course, it's a modern interpretation of oriental fragrances, not like the ones in the past, which are more like
yeah, oriental are a bit hard to wear. They can be a bit too sharp and heavy, so that's why modern oriental, they try to make it lighter and more likable. So yeah, Hypnos is a good oriental if you want to try. It's a good like starter of oriental.
But with orientals, I think it's safe to say that they're probably the longest lasting fragrances as well, because a lot of these elements that you use, they're usually used in the bottom notes. And what it does with the fragrance is that it really keeps it there. It almost keeps it intact on your skin for hours on end, and especially if you're wearing an eau de parfum.
Like you can't wash it off.
You can't wash it off. Your wardrobe's gonna smell of it for months, maybe, if it's a good perfume. And then I think the next category is gourmand. Gourmand is basically things that we associate with food, but not of course you're not thinking pasta or bacon and eggs. You really don't want to smell like bacon and eggs. However, I've heard that the new Burger King fragrance, which is called Flame, kind of smells like bacon, so that's a bad idea. But gourmand, you're looking at vanilla, chocolate, coffee, and of course I think when we're saying this, we can only be reminded of one fragrance, and that's
Angel by Thierry Mugler. So yeah, it's really heavy on the vanilla, and also of course it has patchouli.
Yeah, every time we'll hear patchouli, I'll do a little juke. But of course, whenever Thierry Mugler did Angel a while ago, and that was probably one of the first gourmand fragrances to come out, and it has been a storm for the past 30 years.
And yeah, a lot of women have Angel as their signature fragrance, since it's very distinctive, and of course it's very long lasting as well.
Yeah, you will smell like something your grandmother baked in her kitchen. So that's what you're going to smell like for a while if you're wearing Angel. What's the next category?
So another one is the woods, definitely. Like you smell a lot of perfume, and you can pick out like the smell of box or like of sandalwood or cedarwood. So it's basically like trees.
And of course, again, a lot of these words are thrown around, things like sandalwood and vetiver, which we're not exactly aware of. What are these things? And they're basically different types of woods. They almost have a dry quality to it. A lot of the woody fragrances, they're not exactly, they wouldn't be entirely fresh. So when they're dry down, and especially the trail of the fragrance would have a very barky kind of feeling to it. And of course that they're very wearable. And of course they're another category which will be very long lasting, because sandalwood or vetiver or cedarwood, and they almost have a masculine quality about it, and of course how we rank perfumes, but at the same time they're used in most women's fragrances as well these days.
So yeah, if you want to smell like just been sitting around campfires or just look through the bushes, then of course check out Wonderwood by Comme des Garçons.
I think with that one it starts off a little bit almost like burning wood, and it dries down as cedar and vetiver and any possible wood that you can imagine. A little bit of pine as well, which is interesting for a fragrance.
Yeah.
And of course that we're counting down on all the categories. Then now we have fresh and oceanic ones as well, which are definitely very popular, especially amongst guys. Men love wearing oceanic fragrances. It reminds them of sporty, masculine.
Just like surfing at the beach.
Yeah, just think seaside, think sea salt as well, and that's exactly what an aquatic or oceanic, or for that matter fresh fragrances are.
So yeah, of course the most famous one that represent this category would be CK1. It's a unisex fragrance. So it's very citrusy, it's very fresh, it's very wearable. You can wear it every day. Yeah, it's a very good starter fragrance as well. So if you're looking into getting your first perfume, CK1 would be a really good choice.
Yeah, and somewhat safe, but at the same time, CK1 makes an awesome statement. And the other ones that have always been around, and of course, fresh fragrances, fresh or oceanic fragrances are bestsellers worldwide.
Yeah.
So Acqua di Gio, for example, men and women alike, it's wearable. It always turns heads, and everyone can wear it. It doesn't involve you to be, you don't really make a statement, but you're definitely being noticed when you're wearing a fresh fragrance.
Yeah, it's very pleasant, so it doesn't get on anyone's nerves. So it's not a very loved or hated perfume. It's a very likable perfume. And basically, I think like 9 out of 10 people, or like 9 out of 10 guys, has a bottle of Acqua di Gio.
Yeah, that's true. I think even
you have one, yeah.
Yeah, I used to wear it as well. Of course,
Yeah.
I think I've increasingly become a snob, and I want to smell like an incense stick recently. But yes, I used to be a sucker for fresh fragrances as well. And finally, of course, this is the one that Ha loves. We come to green fragrances.
So yeah, green fragrances basically is like leaves and grass, like bamboos. I really like the scent of like freshly cut grass, like when you just mold your Truth by Calvin Klein is green fragrance, both men and women. And also my favorite, which Ali hates, it's number 19 by Chanel. Yeah, it's very green, like Korean blue. Like even the color of the perfume is green, so that's how green it is.
I think with green fragrances, they're usually a bit of a giveaway because their color would be more or less, they would have a green touch to it. I think Oriental fragrances are usually defined by their darker color. If you look at Youth's View by Estée Lauder, or we're looking at Opium by Yves Saint Laurent. They're definitely categorized by that dark perfume color, which is of course kind of a giveaway into perfume, what kind of a perfume it is. And at the same time with green fragrances, because it is freshly cut grass, you're definitely looking at the perfume would be a little bit of a green color to it.
Another like wearable green that just came out is Peace and Love by Juicy Couture, if you're unsure about what green fragrances are. Yeah, so that was just a really quick run through of the list of the families that perfume belongs to. We definitely will go deeper into each category, and we'll review one of the very popular perfume from that category, and we'll recommend something that you also like if you already know that you like floral fragrances or oriental fragrances.
Yeah, and I'm sure like even what we've said so far, you can probably figure out what exactly you've been wearing for a while. Hopefully you can smell the citrus, you can smell the flowers, and probably that hint of wood in Oriental that's probably always sitting in the background, and you can probably smell it after a couple of hours. But I hope this has been helpful, and
yeah,
please do leave your comments.
So please, if you have any more questions, leave a comment. Feel free to ask us. So please check out our blog as well, and of course don't forget to subscribe to Green Patchouli.
Yeah, Green Patchouli.